Welcome to the Lighting Your Way podcast. This season, our sixth, we're talking to my colleagues at Guardian Nurses about how they help our patients navigate a very complex and confusing healthcare maze. At the end of each episode, you'll hear their suggestion as to how you can become an advocate for yourself and your loved ones. This episode features a story by Monica Nash, a longtime friend and colleague at Guardian Nurses. Monica shares a story about a young patient who, after suffering a traumatic brain injury, had exhausted all of his therapy visits that were covered under his health insurance plan. Monica worked on his behalf to successfully get additional visits covered. Listen in, and you might want to take some notes. Welcome back to Lighting Your Way, Monica Nash. It is an honor and a privilege to have you back on the podcast.
Oh, Betty, thanks. I feel the same. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now, Monica, I do occasionally, from time to time, your superhero name is Nurse Nash. So if I slip during the podcast and call you that, please know it's coming with great affection.
I appreciate that too. Thank you.
So this season, we're reaching out to our colleagues at Guardian Nurses and trying to highlight the stories and the work that we do day in and day out, and talk to our listeners about what they can learn from those experiences and those stories. So this season's all about our nurses and all about stories. And I know you have a good one to share with us. So without further ado, I will pass the mic to you. Tell us about your story.
All right. Thanks, Betty. So I had a case a while ago. It was a young man who was in a serious motor vehicle accident. He sustained a significant traumatic brain injury. He was in ICU for over a month, actually about 6 weeks. Several times during this admission, his wife was called and they asked her to come in because they wanted her to withdraw life support. His wife knew her husband had so much energy and life in him prior to this injury. She couldn't do that. She knew that he could continue and she wanted to do that. So it was a good decision at that time. And Ben eventually was discharged from the hospital to a rehabilitation center that specialized in traumatic brain injuries. He was there for another month and then he was transferred home.
Tell me how old he was.
Sure. Ben is in his mid-30s, was a very athletic and active man, a force to be reckoned with. And when I spoke with his wife, she has that same kind of energy. They did a lot of outdoor activities together and bought a farm, had great plans, a lot of stuff coming their way when this thing happened. And actually, the injury was caused during a bike accident. So this is all a lot of energy and activity painting the picture of what Ben's life was like prior to this injury.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Ben and his wife have 2 small children. His wife works primarily from home. Thank goodness. So when Ben came home, I would like to paint that picture as well. It's really hard for everyone. He was wheelchair bound. And for those of you that aren't familiar, it was from the traumatic brain injury. It was just as if he had a stroke. He had limited use of arm and leg on one side, the most affected side. He needed maximum assistance with everything. He was wheelchair bound. He needed help bathing, dressing, eating, going to the bathroom, just moving in general. So I think if you stop and think about that, all that his wife had on her plate, it's an awful lot. It was overwhelming.
That's a lot to handle, especially with 2 small children. And right. I do want to mention that you've decided to call this patient Ben, but that is not his name.
Correct.
Great. Okay. So let's keep going.
So Ben's insurance benefit provided home therapy, which included physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. He was also allowed at some point some outpatient visits at an outpatient therapy center. So to review, his at-home therapy focused on things like transfers, to get him from the wheelchair to the bed or from the bed to the wheelchair, strengthening, he needed to move that weakened side, but also strengthen the unaffected side to assist his wife to transfer him. Activities of daily living, things that would help him in his home and ultimately return him as close as possible to his original state.
Okay.
So think about that too. Outpatient, however, uses vastly different equipment in different settings. So think about a big gym. They are able to use things like an exoskeleton. In case you don't know what an exoskeleton is, it's like it makes you like a superhero. They put you in this big, giant, bulky equipment that allows them to stand you and allows you to learn how to walk again, but you're safely encased and you do have people on either side of you. They also have aquatherapy, which he could use an underwater treadmill and lift weights and do a lot of these things that, if you think about it, you know that they couldn't do that at home. And I'm discussing this because all of these therapies and modalities are so important to take a healthy, active man back to the state of, at least as close to as possible to the state of where he was. So the
Right.
goal was improving daily function, but also Ben's quality of life.
Wow,
Ben
that was a lot of therapy.
Oh,
Right.
it's intense. And again, go back to his wife transporting him and people in the home. And just honestly, it just, the calendar, when you looked at their calendar, it just outpatient, inpatient, here, there, everything. So Ben was doing great. And his wife knew exactly what she made the right decision. She knew he could do it. They could do it together. So he was doing very well, progressing with his short-term and long-term goals until his insurance company advised that he'd used all of his rehabilitation visits that were provided.
Uh-oh.
Yep. And that was the benefit plan for the year. This was March.
Oh, and so
It ended.
most plans do. I know that our plan has a limit to the amount of therapy visits that you could
Yes.
get, right? So is that a standard type of benefit? Do they
Yes.
typically limit them? Okay.
Yes. And I'll stop now and advise everybody, get to know your insurance plan pretty well. What's covered under the benefit? That's important. If for something simple, if you're going to have a procedure where you may need some home care, take a look at that so that you're aware as well. I learned that very, very quickly when I used to work in the hospital with our hips and knee patients to
Okay.
find out what they were entitled to afterwards.
Is it 30? Is it a number of visits? I know ours is 30. Is it 30 visits per year?
So it depends. That's a standard one, Betty. I'll just leave it at that. Each one is a little bit different, and I think it depends on the type of coverage that you have.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Well, that's when Guardian Nurses was consulted, and our job was to appeal to the insurance company on Ben's behalf.
And we got that referral. How was he? Is he getting our benefit as a result of an employment situation?
Yes, actually, it was a benefit company that contacted us that had provided the benefits to him.
Okay, got it.
All right, our job again was to appeal on Ben's behalf, and we were going to ask for additional therapy visits that would allow Ben to continue and not to stop, because we knew all the potential that was there. So imagine this was the end of March. He would have had nothing. So,
I'm sorry I keep interrupting.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
Was he making progress? Because I know that
Yes.
often is okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And it was exciting for everyone to see, including the kids, to see the changes every day. Yes, he was making progress. He was able to get out of the wheelchair for longer periods of time, able to transfer a little bit more safely because he was gaining upper body strength. Speech was vastly improved. Eating had never really been a problem post-discharge from the hospital. So things were progressing, but just imagine that was it. It came to a screeching halt in March. And, the family had the option that they could pay out of pocket for visits, but that would continue for a long time. And it really wasn't a good option at that point. So as Ben's nurse advocate, I was driven by Ben and his wife's attitude. Like, what can we do? We have to do this. We have to do this. We can do this. They weren't necessarily angry. They were just driven. Like, they had hope. Let's do this. Help me. So they knew Ben had more work to do, and the energy to fight the fight was in them. And I was very happy to help them do that. So, and again, we knew how to do it. Guardian Nurses knows that piece. We know how to fight the fight. We knew the inside scoop, which was really helpful.
Right.
The process was slow, but none of us gave up. We spoke with therapists, both home care and outpatient, and most importantly, we partnered with the insurance company. Just so everyone knows, each insurance provider has some sort of resources for their members who have a catastrophic event. Now, it's not something that you obviously know, and it's not something that they have necessarily printed in their explanation of benefits or the benefit explanation book that you get when you sign on to that, that program. I called the number on the back of the card, his insurance card.
Okay.
And reviewed the situation. It was customer service. I started like everyone else does, and reviewed the situation. And eventually, I was connected to their catastrophic event team.
And I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing about this. So there is in place in at least this insurance company, a catastrophic event team.
Yes,
and clinical and will help a family with dealing with a traumatic or a catastrophic event.
Yes, and in Ben's case, he had a nurse case manager as well as a social work case manager. And I will also tell you that once this was established, anytime any of us called that number on the back of the card, we were diverted to the social work case manager. It became seamless after that. There's no reason to go through customer service again. They realized once they got all the facts, okay, we need to start working on this.
Great. So you didn't know that this existed either. This was just somebody helping you as you explain the situation to the
It all came from that 800 number on the back of the card, identifying myself as, Ben's nurse navigator. How can we help this?
Well, miracles do happen.
Yes, they do. And I would like to say I partnered with the insurance team, which really was a big deal.
Well, and that's the best scenario, right? It's not that we're adversarial with the insurance companies. It's we'd love to partner with them. It's just that there does seem to be some difference of opinion, perhaps, on what's covered and what's not, and what's allowed and what's not. So I'm glad that you had a good experience.
And I also would like to say that both the nurse case manager, as well as the social worker, had a much more in-depth understanding of situations like that. They're on the catastrophic team. So it was, they immediately jumped on and wanted to hear the story. So I presented Ben's case to the case managers. We had, and it was physically as well as mentally too. That was really important, was to present the whole picture, the kids, the family, what it was like when he came home and how far he had progressed and why were we going to stop this process. And because I had spoken to the therapist and everyone that was involved outside of insurance, we presented, it was a projected timeline with short-term goals and long-term goals, which meant we would like to ask for this many more visits. We would like to ask for this many more visits. So they took all of that information back and presented it to the ultimate traumatic injury team. And I am happy to say that they allowed more visits, physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy visits, at home, as well as they continued his outpatient, which was huge. I do remember at the beginning, when I called the physical therapist from his outpatient department, she said, "Good luck. I don't think this is going to happen."
Right. Because everybody's a little skeptical that this is going to actually work. Right.
But if you think about it, not everybody has someone that fights that hard. We really, all of us were a team fighting for Ben to get these.
Well, and you as the quarterback, I guess, because the PT, OT, they don't, they're working with patients all day, right? They don't have the time to care coordinate, and that's what you're there for.
Right. And they were happy to fight the good fight. They just needed somebody to do it.
Right. So, so the benefits stopped in March. When did they reinstate the additional visits?
Well, unfortunately, they didn't call us until May, the beginning of
Mm,
May.
wow.
And I will tell you that by July, we had them reinstated, almost double what they had been, enough that um, Ben's going to need some additional surgery. So they banked some of them, knowing that he'll have to have some in home visits again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how is he doing? Did he? I mean, I would think, did he slide back a little bit and lose some functionality during the time that he was
Slightly,
waiting?
slightly, but we used that as that was kind of the crux of this. You're there. His brain needs to be continually stimulated. Both hemispheres were affected. Let's keep working. And I will tell you, at the time that this happened, well, no, after probably August, he was able to use a rolling walker,
Wow.
transfer safely. Contact guard with certain, situations. For instance, if he was going to shower and spend a long time upright because balance is still a problem, but he's able to do that.
Wow.
Doesn't use the wheelchair anymore. It sits there as a reminder, but he doesn't use the wheelchair anymore.
And when was the initial accident?
It was August of 2022.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he finally got home, and then they stopped doing the therapies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But they're back. So it's now October. Is he still getting therapy, or are they banking those
He's
hours
No,
and
he still
visits?
goes to outpatient therapy where he gets
Okay.
the exoskeleton and the aqua therapy and some of the bigger pieces of equipment that obviously you can't have at home.
Wow. That's great. I
It's
mean, look, he's a young man, right? A
Yes,
young man with a traumatic event or a
but a lot of
catastrophic
energy
event.
in there still. Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
energy and a great
And
family.
right, and a supportive family and a great family, and they want to see him recover as fully as he can, and hopefully
Yes.
he will, right?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
he needs therapy. So, Monica, that's a kind of a long journey for him.
Yes.
You kind of came in to help. You're still supporting them?
I touch base
Yeah,
every
great.
few weeks, check in and see what do you need, and it's becoming less and less.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's when the Nurse Nash comes out, I'm sure. The whole throughout this whole episode, I'm sure there was the superhero Nurse Nash appeared. So
You're kind.
the family doesn't want to let you go, I'm sure.
Well, I'll never forget him. And you know what? I've been a nurse for 37 years and I learn a lot, but it never stops. And I'll take everything that I learned from him to another case. Just talk about the team, the traumatic team that's there. I would have never known that.
No, I think, I think sometimes insurance companies don't want to tell you things because then it would maybe, dare I say, it would be too easy, but
It feels
it's
that way
kind of like the
sometimes.
keys to the kingdom,
It
if you
feels like
know.
that sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. So Monica, one of the things that we were highlighting is not only the stories, but also for everyone involved, like what is the takeaway for listeners who may not have a Nurse Nash in their corner? What do you feel like is the takeaway for the story?
Well, I have to go back to nursing in this one, but I'm going to try to transfer this to every day. I consider nursing an art, and I thought this was a really good example of it. Um, first of all, we listened. So listen and be compassionate. Don't take no for an answer. Instead, why not? Why can't this happen? I use clinical experience in this case to help support that why not. And then there was collaboration with any resource that was available. And in this case, it was therapists, family, and insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And in Ben's case, we were able to transform caring into actual care. And you don't have to be a nurse to do that. Nurses do that very, very well, but figure out a way. And I think those are the examples.
Well, and I guess when I think of caring in this example, at least the way you've demonstrated it, is again the passion that you bring to helping someone. And I think that is could be a universal quality. It doesn't necessarily have to be a nurse, as you said. It could be his wife. It could be, his daughter, his mom, somebody that would be really in it with him, and pursuing the additional therapies or the additional caring, right? So I think that oftentimes, at least in my experience, is that insurance companies will say no initially. Sometimes they say it twice, 3 times. And I think that's in some instances deliberate, because they feel like you'll go away, right? It's because people just don't have the wherewithal to just keep fighting.
And the question, it's not, you don't have to accept it. It's why not?
Right.
Why not? Figure out a way.
Right. Why not? And then So, but the first suggestion you made a while back was know your benefits, right?
Yes.
Understand them. I know we've talked in previous podcasts about, I think the analogy was that people spend more time planning their vacation than they do reviewing their benefits when they sign up for them. You get benefits typically from your employer. And there is a benefit plan summary, which is the document that lists all of your benefits in that plan. And we always encourage folks to take a look at it and ask questions, and typically ask questions of either, the insurance broker or your HR professional to understand what it is that you're getting. Because in the instance of Ben, he had a limited amount of therapy visits, and that became an issue when he had an event. So.
Yeah, and when you're young and healthy, you don't really think about it that way.
Right.
I'm sure a mid-30-year-old, healthy, active, vibrant man didn't think, I might need these I might need speech therapy. I don't think that ever crossed his mind.
Right. Right. No, I that's a great point to end on. Thank you. That's a great point. So thank you, Nurse Nash. It is always a compelling story when you tell it.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right. I look forward to having you back this season. So
I'll
keep
be
up
here.
the good work.
Thank you, Betty. Have a great
take
day.
care. Bye-bye. If you have any questions that you would like us to address in a future episode, please email us at podcast@guardiannurses.com. That email again is podcast@guardiannurses.com. We would love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us this week. You can find the Lighting Your Way podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google, YouTube, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you liked what you heard, tell a friend and leave us a review. You can learn all about Guardian Nurses Healthcare Advocates on our website, guardiannurses.com. So until next time, find some joy in your life, pet all the good doggies and kitties, and remember to tell your people that you love them. Take care.